Good afternoon. From the KUOW newsroom, this is Seattle Now. I'm Zaki Hamid with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Wednesday, January 28th. Amazon announced today that it's laying off 16,000 employees as part two of a 30,000-person layoff plan that began in October. It's the largest reduction in the company's history. Monica Nickelsberg reports.
Amazon hired Matt McLean in 2020 to help predict how many employees the company would need to handle a surge in pandemic-driven demand. Amazon now says that overhiring during the pandemic is the reason for repeated rounds of layoffs. McLean was laid off in the October cuts.
So when you say we hired more than we needed, we actually hired what we needed at the time, but we needed fewer bodies moving forward.
Amazon CEO Andy Jassy recently said the company is not replacing laid-off workers with AI. But two Amazon employees who spoke to NPR on the condition of anonymity because they fear losing their jobs said managers are asking them to use AI to pick up the slack when their teams shrink. Monica Nickelsberg, KUOW News.
And it's not just Amazon that's shedding corporate workers in Seattle today. Expedia issued a notice that it will lay off 162 employees in April. Those workers are based in Seattle, and some cuts affect remote positions. The jobs being cut include software development engineers, data engineers, and product managers, among others. A spokesperson for the travel technology company says the move is intended to simplify its structure so it can, quote, move faster with more accountability. Expedia has also laid off about 3% of its total workforce last year. Starbucks leaders say their back to Starbucks strategy is working. That's the company's effort to offer less complicated drinks and increase foot traffic. The company reported a stronger than expected first quarter this morning. Sales rose despite calls from some baristas for better conditions and benefits. The company continues to face pressure and protests from unionized stores where baristas are frustrated the company has not reached a contract deal. Hundreds of people turned out for vigils and protests in Western Washington on Tuesday to condemn actions by the Department of Homeland Security. Nurses and other federal workers held a vigil outside the VA hospital in Beacon Hill last night to show support for Alex Pretty, who was killed by Border Patrol agents in Minneapolis. Protesters blocked traffic near Tacoma City Hall last night to demand that ICE leave the city. And the city of Tukwila this week joined a list of local governments urging Congress to pull funding from the Department of Homeland Security. The U.S. Senate is scheduled to vote tomorrow on whether to include DHS funding in its appropriations package. Both of Washington's senators have said they will not support the bill as it stands. Meanwhile, President Trump says his administration will cut off funding to so-called sanctuary jurisdictions as soon as this weekend. He made the threat earlier this month, accusing state and local officials of protecting criminals at the expense of Americans. Seattle's new city attorney says the city will be ready with a court challenge.
We have already joined a lawsuit with San Francisco on that. And so if there is something that is coming in to threaten our funding here in Seattle, we'll file for contempt of court against the Trump administration.
That's City Attorney Erica Evans speaking with KUOW's Libby Denkman on Soundside. President Trump didn't offer details on what funding might be cut or which states and cities he's targeting. But a recent Justice Department memo names both Seattle and Washington states as so-called sanctuary jurisdictions. Mary Bridge Children's Hospital in Tacoma will close its gender health clinic this week due to pressure from the federal government. Multicare Health System, which owns the hospital, says continuing to provide medical gender care treatment to minors would risk investigations and financial penalties. President Trump signed an executive order shortly after taking office to end gender-affirming medical treatments for children and teenagers under the age of 19. Multicare says more than 60% of Mary Bridge patients rely on Medicaid, and losing federal funding would threaten the entire system's ability to operate. City Council is signaling it's prepared to promote the city's interim police chief to the role permanently. The council is scheduled to vote on the matter next Tuesday. Interim Tacoma Police Chief Patty Jackson is the only candidate being considered. She shared her leadership vision at a city work session on Tuesday.
Public safety remains our priority, reducing crime, preventing harm, and supporting our people with training and systems that hold up in real situations. Filling current vacancies and planning for measured growth are critical to maintaining service level and officer wellness over our next several years.
Jackson also acknowledged public concern around ICE activity in light of the immigration crackdown in Minneapolis.
Immigration status alone is not a basis for local police action. That boundary is not negotiable.
Jackson has held the interim position since last March. Former police chief Avery Moore resigned in February. We're going to stay in Tacoma for the next story. The nonprofit Tacoma Arts Live announced today it'll close its doors this summer and sell its historic building, the Tacoma Armory. According to the organization, its education programs will continue, but live events will end on June 30th. The organization says it's seen a decline in ticket sales since the pandemic. Tacoma Arts Live was previously known as the Broadway Center for the Performing Arts and has been operating since 1979. A new study of cannabis users in Washington state is shedding light on a wider range of health problems for some users than previously documented. Noelle Gasca has more.
The University of Washington study found that cannabis users with psychotic disorders, like schizophrenia, report higher rates of physical symptoms like nausea and heart problems. Researchers like Beatrice Carlini analyzed the survey responses of over 4,000 cannabis users between 2020 and 2023. She says users also highlighted mental health symptoms.
They have more hallucinations, they have more problems with panic attacks and problems of mental health in general.
Almost 18% of cannabis users with psychotic disorders reported experiencing hallucinations or psychotic episodes over the previous year. That number dropped to about 3% of people without any mental health diagnosis. Noelle Gasca, KUOW News.
Finally today, Seattle has given up on dry January. Well, when it comes to rain, that is. It was an abnormally dry month for the Seattle area, nearly hitting a record yesterday. The region went 14 days with no measurable precipitation until last night. The January 1963 record still stands at 15 days. Rain is in the forecast for the next week. Next time on Seattle Now, Amazon just announced another round of mass layoffs. We'll get into why and what it signals about big tech.
I'm old enough to remember when companies were fighting over employees with huge salaries and crazy benefits because talent was seen as the biggest asset in the industry. Now I think it's starting to feel more like a liability.
Hear more Thursday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst. I'm Zaki Hamid. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you tomorrow.